Right. Good morning, everyone. So, as we said, the theme really today is about retail media and the third wave of retail media. So, I think the third wave title, retail media, yes, it won. It's in people's budgets. It's now a thing. But it's had two lives already. So, I think it really started off with the digital shelf, this idea it's a sponsored product right next to where you check out or where you buy. Then it broke out. It became in-store, screens, the whole journey started becoming interesting to retail media. And now it's living its third life, which is obviously the buzzword AI. So when customers stop browsing, and start asking agents to search for them, what happens in the retail media world? So really for us, the first question should be, what do you think is overhyped and underhyped in retail media today? Maybe we'll start with you, Monique.
Thank you for having me. I lead sales and partnerships over at Riott Media, and I would say overhyped is probably maybe I dare say this, AI. It's a feature, not a strategy, but maybe I'm party of one on that. Underhyped, I would say it's the general retail media, commerce media landscape. I think there's a lot happening outside of where the point of sale is. Obviously, I'm biased to say that over at Marriott. There's a lot happening there, and it's a very underdeveloped space. So there's a lot of opportunity for brands to drive.
And talk a bit more about AI not being kind of just being a feature, not really the strategy. I think right now a lot of people are still testing and figuring out what are we doing with AI, how to apply it. And so I think for us, we're leveraging it as a way to drive operational efficiency internally first, and then how do we, leverage it to drive more personalized experiences for our guests. So that is a feature application. Nice. What else is overhyped and underhyped?
Well, from my perspective, again, maybe a little bit of a hot take in terms of overhyped. I would say it is a standardized measurement across the whole retail media industry. Not overhyped in terms of its importance, because I think it is very important. However, I think the pace at which we can get to that standardization is a bit overhyped. I think, having grown up in grocery and, being somebody who goes into the store on a weekly or sometimes daily basis, those purchase cycles are obviously very short. It's very easy to attribute a, specific exposure to an actual purchase and measure incrementality in that way. But coming from now, the specialty angle of things, you have to think about, you've got your casual golfer. They're maybe purchasing 1 to 2 sets of golf clubs a decade. Or like for my child, I am certainly not purchasing him a new bat, a new glove every single season. So, it is very hard from that perspective to make sure that, we are accurately tying all of those exposures back to a purchase and doing so in a way that is in that limited time frame of a 4 to 6 week campaign.
Yeah.
In terms of underhyped, I would say a good test and learn strategy from the brand's perspective. I often see that brands are kind of leaning into channels that they're familiar with, and now they're just leveraging those in a retail media environment and seeing good results, but not doing enough in the testing space. So, I would encourage all brands to think about how to carve out specific budget. Each retailer environment is so unique and each audience is so unique. It's really powerful to, test and learn to figure out what is actually going to work best for your brand.
What do you think some of the drivers are behind people being a little bit reluctant to test and learn? Do you think it's a skill issue? Do you think it's a culture issue?
No, I think it's a budget issue. So I think, companies are used to using retail media in a performance way.
Right.
So, this thought that, oh gosh, I'm going to test.
It didn't perform well. Yeah, and you have to explain why it didn't perform well.
Exactly.
Just saying it was an experiment wasn't going to cut it.
They're beholden to those key KPIs. So I think that is holding a lot of brands back. But ultimately, I think if you play the long-term game and test and learn, you're going to end up in a better space.
I also loved what you said about the universal kind of measurement and it being overhyped, how quickly it'll arrive. What are some of those friction points you think that it's slowing it down?
To getting to that standardization? So, I mean, I think, again, it's highly dependent on retailer, highly dependent on category and vertical.
Right.
So if you think about just creating standardization across all the retail media networks, and now it's particular with commerce media networks, it's really, really complicated. So I think we need to take a few steps back and, figure out what is going to work in specific verticals.
Mm-hmm. Stephanie, overhyped, underhyped?
Hello. Well, first of all, thanks for having me here.
Very welcome.
I'm Stephanie Paturzo Swingle, and I lead our commercial marketing team at Instacart. So we market with and towards our B2B partners like retailers and advertisers. And I'm excited to be here with some partners too. We partner with you. So very excited. So for overhyped, a little spicy as well, being on this panel saying it, but I think the fear of agentic and how it's going to take over shopping and retail and groceries specifically, I think is very overhyped currently. And I love that you said it's not that it's not important. It's quite important. It's just overhyped a little bit in the fear side. And then underhyped is definitely retail media as a data layer.
Okay, explain a bit more.
On the
data layer. Yeah, the AI one we get, I think.
Yeah, I'm like,
that one we all feel. Yeah.
Yeah, on the AI or as a retail media as a data layer, if you think about it, we've always had the e-commerce teams managing our retail media budgets, and it's kind of sat there on its own, and you manage retail media, and you don't really talk to the rest of the marketing team. And now it's really this data layer that's not just a channel. You can bring it across your entire funnel. So you should bring in your brand partners to the conversation. You should bring in your media partners to the conversation, because all of the data that retail media has, guess what? It's going to make those channels work harder for you. Exactly. So it's super important that we make that distinction, that it is a layer across all of your media.
Yeah, I couldn't have scripted it better. My next question, retail media was born at the bottom of the funnel, sponsored product, the last click. Now everyone wants to build brands around it. So what's actually making full funnel become a reality? Monique, let's start with you.
So taking it from the commerce media lens, I think you're right. It's the data layer element. I think you can't underestimate the value of a really custom deterministic audience to engage with people in the right moment. So even from our side, we don't own the point of sale outside of our hotels, but we are able to leverage our audiences to find somebody who has a high propensity to need to book a flight because they've already booked a hotel, or they're in the hotel and they're more open to a brand message because they're traveling. And research shows that when you're traveling, it's kind of like calories don't count, money doesn't count.
I have walked past Prada twice this morning thinking, I need that shirt. That shirt is one of those things I know I'm going to find 2 years later being like, why did I ever buy that shirt? It's not even me, but I will buy the shirt before this week is out.
It's the psychology. And I didn't make this up, but it's true. And so when people are traveling, they have this openness to discovering new brands and new things. And so for us, in our space, we can drive those lower funnel actions. We can drive the foot traffic to the stores, the restaurants. We can drive the bookings, but we can also drive the awareness when you apply the right configurations of audiences and data. And so I think you got it nailed spot on. It's the data piece.
Interesting. And also the psychographic data, which is so important. It's like the openness to new experience, the openness to new brands. Yeah, you can do a lot with that insight. Very good. Stephanie, let's go to you next, and then we'll finish up.
Yeah, so we're very lucky at Instacart that we do live at the point of sale as well. So I think what's really making this possible now is people are realizing how rich that data is. So we're able to understand exactly how people are purchasing. And now you can take that and leverage it across any of your media channels. So we have partnerships across Roku, The Trade Desk, Meta, TikTok, Pinterest, the list goes on and on. So any of the media that you're running, we can take, someone's buying bananas or somebody's buying health foods, and we can take that and then layer that onto your data that happens to be about a campaign about something healthy, or maybe it's not endemic. It doesn't even have to be grocery to use Instacart data. So we definitely see that some of our partners, if it's a car company and they are launching a new, maybe it's a minivan or family friendly car of some sort, they're going to look for people who are buying children's snacks, and they can take that data and they can start to target the type of customer they're looking for. So it's definitely becoming this new world where people are just thinking differently about that, what used to be bottom of the funnel information and data and taking it to leverage and build their brand in different ways. We're all spending so much on media. It's got to work harder for us.
Totally. And how are you thinking about it over at Dick's?
Yeah. So for Dick's, the full funnel strategy really comes to life in terms of our full ecosystem. So we like to say that we help brands connect with athletes, which is our customers.
Yes.
From
Love
the
that, by the
stores,
way.
yes, from the stores to the sidelines. So that's really where we're helping brands kind of lean in. We've got specific store formats, House of Sport being the most premier, that really helps athletes engage in sport culture. So we've got climbing walls, we've got batting cages, hitting bays, really unique immersive formats that command a lot of high attention. People are staying in stores longer, and so it's a really great opportunity for brands to reach customers, at the store. And then from a sideline perspective, we've got our Game Changer app, which is the #1 youth sports network. We've got 10 million users on that platform and 1 million teams that are streaming games every single weekend. So again, it's back to those like really high attention moments as a parent. Like that is the most important game of the week, is the one that your child is playing in. So it's a really great opportunity for brands, to show up, with those athletes and athletic households. So a great example of this, we recently launched a campaign with Adidas focused around the World Cup. So through Dick's Media Network, we have worked with Adidas to kind of engage a 360 strategy across all of our channels, our digital channels, in-store, game changer takeovers, e-com takeovers. And I think, again, the proof is in that full funnel 360 strategy. Just in the first 10 days that this campaign has been live, we've seen just enormous results, far exceeding benchmarks so far. So we are really excited for that and to continue to see how it performs.
Well, congrats to you and Adidas. So the third question is a little bit to your point, Stephanie, where you said everyone's expecting it to work much harder. So every brand is asking one thing, what is that net incremental value that you give me, that I couldn't reach otherwise? I think that's an important distinction. Like, what can you give me that I didn't have before? So if you had to make the case, what's genuinely differentiated about your data and your audience? So Stephanie, maybe let's start with you and then we can work back.
Yeah, so I think, again, we're very lucky, the industry that Instacart's in. This is such a personal industry. We're dealing with food, right? So it's something that really is personal to each person. And that gives us the ability to have such rich data that tells you very, very insightful things about our customers. So there's 3 things I'd probably focus on here. The first is that it's all deterministic. So we actually know what people are purchasing. This can tell us a lot about the life cycle that they're in. So again, we know if they're buying, children's products, a ton of it, or diapers, they have a newborn in that house. And that is really verified, real data. And what's great about that is people use their real address, right? When they're ordering groceries, they're not going to put a fake address and a fake name. So we verify the user. The second thing is that our customers are highly valuable. They are, at the point of purchase, they spend more than the typical customer. And then they also are very representative of America. So if you think about it, we have 2,200 retail banners that we work with. So if you buy data from another, grocery partner, you're going to get maybe the value shopper or maybe, the health food shopper. We've got them all. We understand how everyone in America shops differently across 2,200 different banners. So it's very diverse in our data set. And the last thing that I would say we've mentioned prior is like incrementality for us. So we did a study across a few of our channels with our off-platform partners, and the audience that Instacart reaches is 90% incremental to the audiences that you're already reaching in your media buys right now. So, people say, why spend more for a smaller audience? It's a different audience. This is a valuable, diverse audience that you got to meet them now, and people are purchasing through the whole funnel. So you want to make sure that you're capturing them at this moment.
Okay. And what about Dick's? What's special about the audience? What's special about your approach?
Yeah. So, again, it's back to the athlete. The athlete is in the center of everything that we do. So we like to say that we help brands connect through the culture of sport and really kind of taking that cultural element and elevating it forward. It's when we reach our athlete and the strong insights that we have against those athletes, we're helping brands, whether it be fitness, whether it be, performance angle, or whether it be, something else, a hobbyist, we're helping them reach those customers in the moments that they are shopping for those exact products.
Great. Tell us a little bit more about the culture elements. That's super interesting. How do you define culture and the culture of sports?
Yeah, I mean, again, you can think about probably the thing that pops to your mind first is like fandom.
Fandom, for sure. Yeah.
And that certainly is one element, but it's not the only element. So, you think about youth sports, for example, where performance is kind of the thing that you're kind of focused on helping your child, improve in their sport that they are passionate about.
Sure.
So, it's reaching all of those families. I think 68% of U.S. households, parents, have a child in youth sports. And that life stage typically extends about 10 years if you're lucky.
Yeah.
So it is a very, unique point in time in which, it influences so much of what you do. My husband, for example, we have 3 kids, but it took 1 season of coaching baseball and stuffing all the equipment into his Honda Accord where he was like, we need a truck. So we went out and we got a truck. So it influences the car that you drive. It influences the loyalty programs that you're a part of. It influences where you dine, and then how you travel and the partners that you select along the way. So it's a great opportunity, not only just for our brands that we sell in our stores, but for non-endemics to engage as well.
Speaking of travel, what's happening over at Marriott?
Yeah, so we are bridging the hospitality and commerce sectors with what we are doing, and there is an element of sports as well in there. And so it kind of ties back to the psychology of travel and what is the consumer's mindset in those different booking stages, and then how are we matching them to find those incremental moments that maybe brands are not currently reaching them. So if you think like when you're figuring out where are you going to go for your kids' spring break, they have a week off in March, you're going to fill it with a trip. That's a very different moment than when you're 2 weeks away from a trip to Mexico and you're like, oh my gosh, we need sunscreen, we need bathing suits, my kids grew this year, all of those things, to when you're actually on the trip and you've made a bunch of reservations, but research shows you hadn't made them all. So you're also filling in, meals maybe with an Instacart order to your Courtyard Marriott or, something else. And so what we're able to do is build audiences based on those specific moments. And that's net new for advertisers because we know exactly when they're on a trip, about to be on a trip, and have those need states a little bit above and beyond some of those different than those retail moments. So it's giving them a new way to engage with the guest.
And I love how complimentary all of this is, right?
It's almost as if it was by design.
Yeah, it's like it's almost like you chose us specifically, but truly there's just such different lifestyle, life stages that you can get from these audiences. And I think this is what everyone has to realize is that we have the data to make their media work in the right way and tell the right story.
Yes, exactly. So I guess the other thing is, you're not the only games in town. There are hundreds of retail media networks now, which we're super excited about, obviously. But really for brands and agencies, we spoke about this earlier. It's that discrepancy and disparate measuring systems. Even like one word meaning slightly different things to slightly different retail media networks. So it's the language, it's the measurement. You can't trust words, you can't trust numbers. The question is, how and when do you think it will be consolidated? What are some of the biggest traction you've seen for consolidation so far on your side of the business? Any tips on how we should consolidate it? This is a very broad question. Let's just say measurement, consolidation, go. Monique.
I'll go. The way that we're approaching it is we're trying to bring in third-party partners that mirror the partners that our brands are currently using. So, for example,
so very brand-centric.
Yeah, exactly. So we're trying to provide measurement that is similar to what they're looking at across their portfolio of media partners.
Don't reinvent the wheel strategy.
Exactly. So if a restaurant company is QSR is leveraging foot traffic, or a retailer is leveraging foot traffic, we're building out with partners in that space. Or building out, SKU sales with partners as well. So we're trying to provide the right metrics based on that consumer mindset and the vertical to meet our partners where they're at versus a net new incremental metric on top of that.
And how is that going? Candidly. Because data's hard. Making numbers match. Not easy.
Yeah. So when Riott Media was born, about a year, actually launched at Cannes last year, the whole premise was that it would be built on a really strong measurement tech stack. We knew measurement was going to be key, and we couldn't run faster than the measurement could keep up. So we've been working with a lot of these third-party partners. So we have clean room capabilities and other capabilities already in market, and more coming later this summer.
Very exciting.
I'm gonna take a different angle to your question, and I'm gonna go the media route. So, I think as we think about consolidation, we are certainly, building additional flexibility into our media buying model. So probably unsurprisingly, we started with a managed service. But we know as we continue to work with brands and agency partners, we need to build flexibility into that service model. So we are looking at self-service technology where it makes sense, but also, formulating partnerships with DSP partners to allow agencies to build our audiences into their media strategies and media plans so they don't have to come and engage with us separately. So, we know that that's going to be really important for the future, just to make sure we are easy to work with across the board. So that's where we're leaning in.
Okay, great.
So I can't solve all the world's problems.
Yes.
But I can solve the grocery problem.
Okay.
Which is good. So right now there's hundreds of grocery retail media networks.
Yep.
And brands need to be everywhere, right? Because customers are shopping at different stores. They have different preferences for different meats or different fruits from places or brands. And they're shopping multiple stores. And it's really challenging as a brand to make sure that you're in every single retail media network. It's impossible. You would need 20 to 40 different teams to manage that. So what Instacart has done is we've built an ecosystem. So we actually connect one campaign. We power 310 grocery e-commerce sites. So the Hy-Vees, the Publix, the Costco's. One Instacart ad goes across all of those. So we've actually started to solve that fragmentation in the grocery industry and build this network that brings you these high value customers, no matter where they're shopping. We even extended in store. We have our caper carts in store. So now we can extend those campaigns right at the point of shopping on our caper carts, which is just a wonderful experience for our customers. And we're continuing every year to add more and more of these grocery networks. So we're really trying to solve fragmentation by standardizing the measurement, the buying, the optimization. We have one place for you to buy it in our ads manager, and you're going to cover all of those 300 plus grocery e-commerce sites. So we always say, focus on, the two big guys. I'm not going to name them. And then we'll cover the rest. We've got the rest for you. Don't bother hiring 1 million people to do it. Don't bother driving your team crazy. We will handle that for you.
Very insightful. And do you think something like that could work in the sports industry and the hospitality industry?
I mean, I certainly think it could. I think we each have our own little niches that together would be super powerful.
Yeah.
So it's certainly something that we've talked about, but, still yet to come.
I mean, I imagine a world where the networks are working together so that all of our different touch points connect the dots throughout a campaign for an advertiser. So when we're promoting a sports beverage in a Courtyard Marriott during a youth sports tournament, that customer is going to their local Dick's Sporting Goods or making an order from Instacart, right, to their hotel to do that. But if we can find a way to bring that all together, it's easier for the advertiser, and it's also a better experience for the consumer. So I think that's something I'd like to see in the future.
Love. Okay, so we've been skirting around AI for a little bit for the last 20 minutes, just to give you all a bit of a brain break from AI. Let's chat about it. So yes, we all agree, totally overhyped, but what are some of the bets that you're making now already as you're thinking towards the future for when it does become bigger? Any bets you're taking now already?
Yeah. On the Riott Media side, I mentioned a little bit earlier that we're looking at how can we use it as a feature to improve what we're doing and how we're planning for our partners and speed to market for our campaigns.
Right. Yes.
So I think that's not rocket science, but that's the easy application that we can leverage internally. And then, of course, as a corporation, we're exploring different applications as well. But that's where we're focused right now.
And the speed to campaign, is that really just about giving them the right kind of AI-powered tooling to put in audience, metrics, graphics, whatever you want, and to boom, it kind of generates the campaign.
Exactly. And creative. I mean, trends pop up overnight. And I'm sure you both see this in your businesses as well. So how can we go live as soon as the trend is hitting versus, hey, we have this great idea. Let's put customers together with this brand. And it takes a week to do that, right? And so how can we leverage these AI tools to get there like this? And it's possible. It's just setting it up the right way.
Amazing. How about at Dick's?
Yeah, so at Dick's, I mean, obviously AI is very new, but where we are bullish mostly is in the creative space. So, we have an amazing creative production team that we have leveraged to do custom photo shoots, custom production work, especially for non-endemic partners who may not have sports first creative at the ready. We've engaged those teams, and where we've done that, we've seen tremendous results. It's very clear that custom creative really resonates with our audience, and we know that athlete really well. So, we can help our partners get there, but it is time intensive. It takes, 12 to 16 weeks to get something like that produced, and takes money out of working media budgets. So we are really looking towards AI to help us with that speed to market problem, but also creating more variation within creative so that we can do more testing and learning. And so that's where we're really placing our bets.
And on the creative side, do you see a lot of the time saving from AI kind of in the early prototype phasing? So you can very quickly show a mood board of 4 different campaign ideas to a client and say, hey, which one of these is, the thing that's going to resonate most and that you think is both on brand for you, but also resonates with our audiences. So you kind of cut out a lot of the back and forwards of my brand, your audience, and getting that match just closer.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that's a good application. The other thing that we're looking to do and working with a partner right now is how do we feed in all of our athlete insights, all of the performance data of what has worked exactly, to then inform what creative should look like in the future. So I think that's going to be a game
And that's
changer.
the exciting thing about AI also. You feed in a lot of creative what's worked in the past. And to the human eye, you're like, I can't really see a pattern, but sometimes the AI does. So it can see things we can't. And that's an exciting use of AI, I think, for sure. And how about at Instacart? What are the big bets you're taking on AI?
So, first of all, it's funny you say that AI can find the interesting tidbits because we were just looking at some of our data before coming here and we saw that customers who bought rosé were like, whatever it was, 3 times or 2 times more likely to buy sunscreen. And we find all these fun...
Responsible rosé drinkers.
And I don't know if any sunscreen company was like, I'm going to be in the rosé aisle, but now we can tell them that. But I talked a little bit when we first got on stage about how I think that agentic is a bit overhyped in the grocery industry. And for me personally, I think it's because we forget just how personal and how much ownership and customization you want as a human when it comes to food. So for instance, like AI might know that, I typically buy healthy cereals, but you know what? I'm pregnant right now. I'm expecting and I'm not buying any healthy cereal. I have Cinnamon Toast Crunch and Reese's Peanut Butter Puffs in my
baby wants sugar.
AI couldn't tell me that, but it can learn that and it create a really personal experience. So I think it's overhyped because in my opinion, I'm placing my bet on the fact that AI is only going to make the shopping experience more personal and more interesting. It's not going to take over discovery. It's not going to completely take over shopping. So a good example is this week we actually launched our AI-powered shopping assistant.
Oh, congrats.
We're very excited.
What's the name? They all have cute names.
Good question. Not a name yet, but AI-powered shopping assistant.
Okay.
Comms team, check me there. A few names have been running around though that are kind of sexy, so hopefully soon we'll announce it. But what's great is this takes plain language queries. So I need a healthy, I need a really tasty and delicious meal that's going to satisfy me with a bunch of protein in it right now for 2 people. And what it can do is start to build that cart for you, suggest different products, and we're using this to learn and understand how customers are shopping because I don't think anyone yet knows the answer to it. So I don't think agentic's going to take over the experience. What Instacart's doing is learning, taking that data and bringing our partners along for the ride so that they can truly understand the consumer behavior. And then we'll think about, how you serve ads and how you become part of it. But let's not jump from A to Z. Let's figure out that experience in the middle together.
I mean, to share a personal experience, I'm vegetarian and delicious high protein meals is exactly what I'm in the mood for, but it's chicken, it's fish. I was like, you know I'm vegetarian. I've been vegetarian for 8 years. You have this data. Just give me the good tofu. So yeah, I feel you. Right, it's time to start closing out the panel, and I really want to allow some time for questions. So let's close out the panel, and then let's give the mics to the audience for some questions. But the closing question is a bit of a lightning round. So finish the sentence, in kind of 20-second bite-sized chunk. The retail media networks that will win in the next 3 years will be the ones that ... So what's going to make retail networks win in the future? Let's start with you, Shannon.
So what I think is going to be those that really find their unique niche and they lean into it.
Yes.
I think there are obviously so many retail media networks, so many, Me Too's.
Yeah.
I'm really placing bets around who is able to find that core unique differentiation and make sure that they are bringing that to life for their brands and advertising partners.
Love. Stephanie.
I think it's kind of what I just spoke about before. They're going to survive if they're adapting and learning and staying ahead of the curve and bringing their partners along with them through it.
Okay.
Closing
us out.
Yeah, it's going to be those that bring forward all of their first-party data with measurement that can support that and can measure the outcomes that we think the first-party data is going to provide. So probably a little bit leaning into the niche, but first-party data and aligned measurement.
Perfect. Right. I think let's open up to the floor to see if there are any questions. 3 fabulous speakers from 3 fabulous companies. I'm sure there's a lot of questions.
I'm curious, maybe from Shannon, your perspective, when you are partnering with brands and you're trying to demonstrate the value of your RMN, you're often talking about the shopper because you really have the data on the person who purchased the product. But when you have like a shopper mom dynamic that you kind of alluded to, when you have like maybe the brand is trying to target the young kiddo that's 13 and you're trying to learn a little bit about where their interests are going. Is there anything that you're able to do with your data to help brands understand, like, I would refer to them as like the eater or the player beyond just the shopper?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I mean, obviously, there are sensitivities around targeting young children. However, we know who is buying those products for their children is the mom. So you get the mom to purchase, the brand that they're really interested in. Like my son loves baseball lifestyle. So, he came to me advocating for the brand, just seeing it kind of out with other, athletes wearing it, his peers. I buy it. And then, you kind of create that athlete and that fan early on. And that loyalty, I think, extends beyond that. So, I think we see a lot of influence in the space amongst the peer set, but also you have to convince the mom that it's, a product worth buying, it's high quality. And, once you can kind of connect those two, that's where we see the power.
I think then it's probably time for us to wrap up. And just, I wouldn't be a CMO if I wasn't plugging Mirakl ads. So go check out Mirakl ads. We have Octavie here. We have Christina. Come talk to the team. We'd love to chat to you. Thank you, everyone.